Welcome back, boys and girls, and today we're going to talk about a muzzleloader or black powder rifle. In Virginia, we only have 2 weeks of muzzleloader season, but it's got the best of both worlds. Now, during your archery season, you're going to come across quite a few deers that's just out of your shooting distance, and you're thinking, only if I could shoot a rifle. Well, then the muzzleloader season comes around. Now you could reach out to 100 yards even further. And the deers are a little bit smarter, but they're still in their summer pattern. So it gets very exciting. And the best of all, this is the beginning of the rut season. So the male deers bucks are a little bit more focused on the does. They're kind of stupid at this point. So they're just like chasing after those, not really thinking about what's around them. And he was just cruising, looking for a doe. I hit him stop right in front of me, about 30 yards. Matt! Yeah, blood here, but there's a big old buck laying here. Okay. It is 8-point buck. Oh, look at the size of him, man. He's humongous. Many states are very particular with a muzzleloader season. They have all different kind of rules and regulations, what you can or what you can't use. So you got to check your regulation first before you go out and buy your first rifle and then find out you can't use it. Now, there are all different kinds of muzzleloader rifle, but this is one of the common modern muzzle rifle. And from this end, that's where you put a gunpowder and then you put a bullet in there. And then you take this rod and extend the rod and you press it down all the way, very, very tight. You want to make sure it's really tight so that there's no air or moist in between, because if there's air or moist in between, the powder's not going to burn right. And it's going to change the point of impact. Sometimes it even sounds funny. So make sure you press down all the way. We're going to talk about that later. And then at this point, it's not considered as loaded because you don't have a primer in there. You can't fire without primer. Now, most modern rifles, you could break open the barrel like this and put a primer in there. Now, once you have the primer in there, it's considered to be loaded. So you want to put your primer once you open the tree. And just like lever action rifle, you could have your hammer down and you're good. Now, when you see a deer come out, that's when you cock your hammer, aim, and boom. Now, one thing you have to keep in mind is that black powder rifles, when you shoot, you're gonna see a lot of smoke come out. So it's really hard to see where you hit the deer through the scope. So what I usually like to do is when I shoot, I lift my head and see where the deer ran, so I can find it. It's a small spike. Matt. As for the black powder, we are allowed to use this black powder cake. So if you open this up, each pellet is 50 grains of black powder. So if I put in 2, like here, there's 100 grain. And I only use 100 grain because in my opinion, up to 100 yards, 100 grain should have no problem whatsoever. But if you're gonna shoot further distance, you might want to put 150 grain. Now, one thing you have to be very cautious, most modern black powder rifle has no problem accepting 150 grain, but some rifles are limited at 100 grain, so check that first before you do anything. And as for the bullet, I like to use copper bullet, and this is 223 grain. Now that's not too heavy. It's actually considered to be a little bit on the lighter side. I find this to be more than enough for any big buck or deer. So, but the reason I use a little bit lighter is that it is flatter shooting. So out to 100 yards, I don't have to compensate for anything. In most rifles, you don't have to at 100 yards, but I just want to make sure if I see something from 50 to 150 yards, I don't have to worry about where to put my crosshair. And this is palm swell. You're gonna need that because you really want to push that rod down all the way in. And if you do it with just bare hands, that rod's gonna bury into your palm and it's gonna hurt like hell. So you wanna make sure you use this. Press it down really good. And if you put 2 pellets and 1 bullet and your gun is ready, and except for the primer. So I usually like to have it done night before the hunt and then leave the primer out. And this is how I carry. So I have 1 shot ready to go in my rifle. Then I like to carry 6 extra rounds. So each tube here contains 6 pellets. That means 3 shots of 100 grains. So two container means 6 shots for the black powders. And then if you look at very carefully, I don't know if you can see it or not, but I put primer, bullet, primer, bullet, primer, bullet, primer. So when I go up in the tree, first thing I do is I open this up, and the first thing I see is a primer. So I take that out and put it behind in my rifle. That means my rifle is loaded and ready to hunt. And then if I shoot a deer, then I want to make sure I have everything in order. I put black powder first, and then 1 bullet, and then once I push everything down, I open the barrel and then put the primer, so I'll be ready for the second shot. And the reason I do this is that you want to make sure that the situation doesn't become chaotic. Just in case you need a second shot, you have to be able to do it very swiftly and fast as you can, but efficiently. Now, the black powders are notorious for rusting your barrel and getting your barrel really dirty. So you want to make sure you clean it really well and you coat it well when you store it. And also, as you fire, the barrel gets dirtier, and without cleaning it, it gets more difficult to push in your black powder and the bullet. So after second and third shot, it gets very confusing, and you might not be able to push it in all the way, or you think you did, but you didn't. Then that's when the powder doesn't burn right and your point of impact might change. So at the beginning, when you first load everything up and push it in everything with a palm swell, you want to put a notch on your rod. So after second and third shot, when you're pushing it in, and as long as you can see the notch right at the muzzle, then you know you pushed it in all the way and you could shoot it properly. Black powders are very sensitive to temperature change and the moisture. So you want to make sure you have it in a tight seal container. And I like to have my black powder and the bullet loaded night before the hunt, so in the morning I don't have to fumble with anything. But you have to make sure you load it in the garage and leave your gun in the garage or in the car. So that way there's not a big change in the temperature. Now what happens is that if you load it in the house and take it outside where it's really cold, then it's gonna create a moisture in the gunpowder, and it's gonna be damped. And when you fire, it's not gonna burn the black powder properly, and it could change the point of impact. 2 pellets, and I'm gonna load the bullet there. And once I load my muzzleloader here, and you get a pump saver, and then press it in all the way. Now let's imagine this is the first day of muzzleloader season, and you're excited and your head is going a little crazy. Now you have to make sure you have everything in order, so you won't have the buck fever or get into chaotic mode and miss a deer or get yourself in trouble. So when I get up in the tree, first thing that I do is I break open my rifle, put a primer in there, and be careful and close it. But don't cock your hammer yet. And I have my backpack hanging on a tree so that it'll be right next to me or sitting next to me on the bench with a fully extended rod in my backpack, so I have easy access to it. And I have extra black powder and bullet in my left pocket, and then I have my palm spray in my right pocket so that you won't get confused. Now, when you're sitting and if you see deer coming, the first thing that I do is I actually take my gloves off, because if you're trying to reload with that big funny gloves on, you could drop something, you might never find it, you're gonna get into care anymore. So make sure both of your hands don't have any gloves on. You know, in October it's not that cold. So when you see deer coming in, that's when you aim and you shoot, and then you look up and see where the deer ran. And then as soon as you verify where he went, you want to reload, because you might see another deer coming in, or you might need a second shot, or whatever the case is. Then from your left pocket, you put 2 black powder in there, and you put a bullet in there, and you get your extended rod, push it in, and then use a pump set from your right pocket and push it in all the way to that white notch, so you know it's impacted all the way in. And then you take this out. Again, you pop it open, and with your fingernail, grab the primer and pull it out. You can't grab it with the gloves on, I guarantee you. And then get your primer out and stick it in there, close it up, and you're ready again. So if you think this through and practice a couple of times, it becomes a second nature, and trust me, it'll be a lot less chaotic. Now, I also see some people recommending, if the hunt is over and if you still have a loaded rifle, you just want to fire it. I don't typically like to do that, and I don't recommend it, because you can make some other hunter very angry. And you could have a hunting buddy thinking like, oh, David got something. And then if you tell them, well, I just emptied my rifle, they're going to say like, no, you missed. So I don't like that. So what I like to do, it's not that hard to remove it. Just make sure you remove the primer and come home without the primer. And when you get home, just remove the bridge and have it facing down like this with the rifle cocked open, and get your rod extended and just drop it in and smack a couple of times. It will drop out the other side. Now, I don't typically like to use the black powder again for hunting, but I don't mind using it for target shooting, but the bullet is okay. Now, when you're hunting, you want to have your scope in a lower power. I recommend between 3 to 5. And the cost of the rifle can be anywhere between $100 to thousands of dollars, depending on what you need and what your hunting situation is and how much money you got. Now, when we hunt, we don't shoot beyond 100 yards. So if your hunting situation is within 200 yards, any rifle that costs between 200 to 350 should be fine. Now, this is made by CVA. It's called Optima A. And with a scope and everything, this cost me less than $300, and I had it for over 15 years. It still shoots great, and I don't feel the need to upgrade my muzzleloader, because I don't really use muzzleloader other than hunting, and we only have 2 weeks, and I don't take this for fun shooting at the range. Next, we're going to talk about the second most important hunting equipment in Virginia or whitetail hunting. Yes, that's tree stand. And lastly, like always, thank God for what you have. Enjoy your life with what you got, but mostly be prepared and you could avoid chaos. See you.